You're listening to the Inbound Logistics Podcast with today's guest, Luis Bazan, Director of the Pharr International Bridge. A volatile political landscape is putting pressure on Mexico, and cross-border supply chain operations are becoming a casualty. Tariffs and a looming trade war have thrown the industry into an unsteady situation that companies are struggling to navigate. How can businesses better prepare to keep shipments moving? Luis Bazan, Director of the Pharr International Bridge, shares some of his insights in a constantly evolving situation. Joining us today on the Inbound Logistics Podcast, we have Luis Bazan, Director of the Pharr International Bridge. Luis, thank you so much for coming back to the show.
Jeff, thank you for having me again. It's been a while.
It has been a while. So much time that has gone by, so we're looking forward to the conversation. Luis, do me a favor and introduce yourself to the audience again and tell us a little bit about you and Pharr International Bridge.
Sure thing. Thank you, Jeff, again. So my name is Luis Bazan, and I'm the director for the Pharr International Bridge. Been here 11 years, a few months, but I've been in Pharr for a long time. I used to run the chamber as president and CEO for the Pharr Chamber back from 2008 to 2013 before I made my move to the city, and I've been at the bridge ever since. So in the last few years, the last 10 years or so, we've been really pushing in new development, new innovation, investments. The bridge is currently crossing close to about $50 billion in trade. So obviously, it's in our best interest to continue to push the envelope, regardless of the rhetoric, regardless of what's going on in the political or in the tri-national political arena. Right now, we're still working on some major projects, some major improvements, and we'll get into it right now. But for the most part, we've been doing really well in the last 10 years alone. And so as of 2015, that's when we really hit the ground running and just started moving forward with projects. And we're almost done with some of these, so we're very excited about what the future holds for Pharr.
Excellent. Well, let's definitely get into that arena, as you mentioned. There's been a lot of talk in the headlines about tariffs and cross-border trade. Given everything that's going on politically in the media and all of that, are cross-border shipments actually up or down? And what sectors have you noticed that are experiencing the most significant shifts?
Sure. So, it's unfortunate, but for many reasons, shipments are down. And it's across the border. It's across the board and across the border. It's not just in Pharr. No international trade, no crossing bridge, no border crossing is immune to some of the things that we've been hit with in the last few weeks. So if you kind of take a step back, let's talk about maybe 4 weeks ago, when Mexico Aduana, the port of entry in Mexico, decided that they needed to do an upgrade to the system. So we entered into contingency matters. Unfortunately, in Mexico, when you enter into contingency, that becomes a separate contingency, and they don't have the authority to really release the cargo as we do in the U.S. side. They have limitations as they have a higher authority to answer to. And then since the aduana or Mexican port of entry has been militarized for more than 40 years now, that obviously, doesn't help. So what happened during the contingency is basically for a full week, Saturday through Sunday, the best way to explain it is if a truck takes about 30 seconds to go through, in Spanish we call it modular, go through the process. It was taking, instead of 30 seconds per truck, it was taking up to 5 minutes and 30 seconds, 6 minutes and 30 seconds, 7 minutes. I heard up to 10 minutes. So sure.
Exponential delays,
backlog, you name it. We were out there in Reynosa, I remember, and we just could not, we kept driving and kept seeing a long line of trucks. It's good to see all those trucks that are coming through your bridge. But at the same time, we know that it's chaotic, especially for the drivers, for the transportation companies. It's chaotic for the entire supply chain, for the manufacturers, for the produce importers, for the customs brokers. And this was both ways in Mexico. If you go to Reynosa, there's two-way streets, and we could see it from both sides. So that caused a lot of delays, obviously. And then the following week, unfortunately, some illegal activity or some illegal drugs did manage to get across, or trying to get across the border. Mexico didn't catch it. The U.S. did. So now U.S. is holding Mexico accountable for that, right? And they're saying, well, you're going to have to do 100% truck inspections. The problem with Mexico, with the aduanas, with the ports of entry, even though they're militarized, they don't have all the proper equipment. They don't have the X-rays. They don't have the dogs. They don't have the necessary equipment to be able to facilitate that. So they're having to open up every single truck, yet they're not finding anything because there's no way to inspect those trucks. So you have them calling the US and saying, hey, can you guys help us out? Can you guys spot us with a mobile X-ray machine? Can you guys do this for us? Can you guys extend your hours of operations for us because we're stuck? Unfortunately, it at that moment in time, it is no longer a U.S. issue, even though this is cross-border, it's international, it's binational, bilateral. It's no longer a U.S. issue. This is a Mexico issue, and the U.S. can't bail them out. Uh, so we're here to facilitate trade matters, and we're consistently talking to our federal partners with Customs and Border Protection, with the Aduana, the General Director. I mean, all these folks and all the different agencies, associations from all the different industries that we service through this bridge. But there's only so much we can do. This is government to government, federal level. It's above everybody. So that caused delays. And then now, obviously, this week with the beginning of what we already knew was coming because we've been hearing about it, which the tariff increases for 25% for goods from Mexico, for goods from Canada. So you put all that together, it compounds into total chaos. I hate to say it that way, but it's the truth. And unfortunately, companies, in particular, maybe even the customs brokers on the Mexico side, were not prepared. I think it's part of the culture where sometimes we say, well, it's coming. They've been talking about it. We don't think it's going to happen. We doubt that it's going to happen. We doubt that it's going to be that bad. And suddenly it hits us, and they're scrambling. They're like trying to figure out what is the next. What do we do now? Can you guys help us out? Can we have a meeting with CBP? Can we do this? Can we do that? And unfortunately, again, it's in everybody's best interest to be prepared. I know that maybe it might have been a plenty of time, as they say, but at the end of the day, man, these are things we have to deal with. We're all in trade. We all depend on this. We're all part of the supply chain in one way or another. So we all have to be ready.
Well, speaking of being ready, then, are businesses finding any effective workarounds to the new administration's tariffs? For example, like what are major companies like automobile companies? What are they doing to mitigate the impact of the high tariffs?
Well, we don't really truly know yet. I mean, I think that there's several ways to view this, and I've been trying to catch up on some reading and trying to get the latest information. And it's really tough to tell. Last week, as an example, we met with the manufacturing associations. I mean, the only way to mitigate things is to obviously get in front of it. And what I mean by that is be prepared. Your bonds, your insurances. Ensure that your customs broker is the right customs broker for your types of shipments. If you're certified, if you're part of the CTPAT program, if you're already in the fast lane, as they say, then good for you. But at the same time, the way you can mitigate things is by being prepared. But again, I think it's too early to tell, Jeff. I think we're going to have to give this at least another couple of months, maybe a quarter, to be quite honest with you, to really gauge what's really happening and what the total impact or effect will be at the end of the day. It's really hard to tell. Anybody you talk to right now, bankers, customs brokers, again, all these folks that are involved in trade, at the end of the day, nobody can give you a definitive answer right now. It's really tough to tell. We have a meeting scheduled for Friday with CBP and the customs brokers from Reynosa, as an example, and just to kind of, again, get a better feel for it. What are they seeing? What are some of the setbacks? What can companies do to come better prepared, be ready, have your shipping manifests? As an example, recently with the contingency in Reynosa in Mexico at the port of entry, it was all paper stuff. It was back to paper. It was back to having your documents in paper format. So if that's the case, then be prepared. Don't wait till the last minute. Don't get in line and block the line, as we call the ruta fiscal, as we say, for those that are ready. Don't do that. Be prepared. And that is the customs broker's job, to ensure that you, as an importer, as a customer of theirs that's going to cross the border, is ready.
All right. Now you just mentioned that it's tough to gauge the real impact of tariffs on overall trade. It may be too early to tell, of course. Now the media is focusing heavily on the tariffs just in general, but a lot of commodities aren't even subject to them. So is the level of concern justified, or is the coverage just overblown right now?
Well, I think there's both. I think there's a little bit of both. As a matter of fact, a new piece of information that just came through just a little while ago. So it looks like the U.S. and Mexico did reach an agreement just a little while ago. It looks like the person that was in the conversation, or the U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, has mentioned that they're extending it by another month. So as it was this week, we found out that anybody in the automotive industry was free of the tariffs for now, right? Or for the next, until April the 2nd. So now it appears that U.S. and Mexico have spoken, and U.S. is saying, okay, we're not going to impose the tariffs on Mexico, at least for the time being. This does not mean it's going to stay permanent. This just means it buys you more time, again, to be prepared, to get ready, right? And this is just kind of pressing news right now that just came through. And these are part of it says here, I'll just read it like this. After speaking with President Claudia Sheinbaum, uh, of Mexico, I have agreed that Mexico will not be required to pay tariffs on anything that falls under the USMCA agreement. Now, under the USMCA agreement, already there are products, commodities that don't pay high tariffs, or don't pay tariffs at all. So I think that was one of the things that both sides, Canada and Mexico, were talking about. Hey, we're breaching the deal. We have a USMCA deal. We have the NAFTA agreement. Yes, it's up for renewal by next year, but we need to stick to the rules right now. This is what it says. Let's stick to that. So I think that's what it's trying to say there too. That there is products that fall under that will not be required to pay tariffs. But it's not a long range deal. I don't see it as long range.
Well, then on that note, do you have any realistic hope for a long range deal, for a more negotiated cooperative approach to cross border trade? What would that look like?
Yeah, so obviously, for us, it makes perfect sense to have a long range plan and say, okay, let's not hit everybody up so quickly. Let's kind of take our time with it. Because my understanding is US was supposed to have like some studies, some economic impact studies. And I don't think those were ever done. It was just like all of a sudden it hit. Again, we knew about this coming in, right? The new presidency, we knew coming in that things were going to change. Uh, so we had a little bit of preparedness, right? We could have prepared. The companies could have prepared, but I think what it would look like is, phasing it out in a matter in a year's time, as an example. I don't know what that does for specific companies and specific industries. Maybe some will benefit from it, maybe some won't. But when it comes to cross-border trade, we've always known, even something as simple as a toll increase, even if you're raising the toll by $1, these guys already have agreements, for example, with their importers, with their customers, Maquila as an example, and they've already looked at the pricing, and now it has to come out of their pocket, right, before the year goes by, because some of them have up to 1 to 2 year agreements with their individual customers. If you're a transportation guy, as an example, right? So these guys are up in arms about paying $1, because they need more time to plan, right? So that the cost, so it won't cost them, it'll cost their customer somewhere along the supply chain, right? Same thing here. I think it's just a matter of testing the waters, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. Obviously, again, from what I'm seeing, everybody's up in arms about it. Nobody wanted it, but it's here. We're gonna have to live with it, and we just have to phase it out. I don't know how else to put that. But as far as the industries that are being affected, I can't tell you one specific industry that's being affected. We're very fortunate to have at least five major industries to cross through this bridge. And from what I can see, just visually and talking to the folks, everybody's being affected in one way or another. It's not there's even the agriculture, on the agriculture side, yeah, we understand some products will be tariffed and some won't. Let's hope it's not the products that make it across this bridge with the highest value, right?
Now let's touch on those industries. Pharr Bridge is the number one entry point for produce, like berries,
Correct.
avocados. Um, how can Pharr help minimize the risk for some of those industries that are caught up in this uncertain trade condition? Touch on how your new cold storage facility would help
Yeah.
industries like that.
So look, I'm glad you're bringing that up. We're very excited about the future, about building all this new infrastructure. But I even think, we've gone through this before where you could have all the infrastructure in place, you could have all the personnel, you could have the latest technology, the latest process improvements. But when something like this hits, I don't think any of that will make such a big difference. The way we look at things and the way we've been doing things at the bridge for many years, several years now, is be part of the conversation. Be involved with the trade associations. You have your Border Trade Alliance, Border Trade Advisory Committee at the state level. We, as an example, at the bridge, we offer that to our customers. We're members of practically every association that you can think of that's out there, locally, statewide, nationwide, both U.S. and Mexico. TIPA, Texas International Produce Association, we're members. So we pass that on to our customers and we say, hey, get involved, be a part of the conversation, get into a committee, be a part of the solution for the future, because if you're not at the table with the decision makers, your voice is never going to be heard. That's where it starts. Position papers, letters, trying to just ensure that that your message is being cleared. Uh, it might not make a difference now, but it might make a difference in the future. So what we offer again is be a part of these associations, and we have a consistent a session that we do once a month called Bridge Connect. With Bridge Connect, we bring your key players, we bring your CBPs, we bring your DPS, we bring a lot of these different associations to talk to the trade about specific pinch points, that they might be experiencing, and to kind of alleviate a little bit of that pain, right? To just kind of give them information. A lot of these folks just want information. Keep me posted on what's going on. Um, so that's what we do. That's what we personally do at the Pharr Bridge, and we're growing on that. We're actually increasing the number of associations that we join. We're members of CAREM, which is the National Association for Customs Brokers in Mexico. That has really opened a lot of doors for us. So again, if these folks are not getting the message directly from the National Association, that is the voice of the industry. They're going to get it from us, but it's better for you to be, in tune with the major associations. Index at the national level, that's your Maquila Association from Mexico. They have one at the national, same thing. Comce Noreste, which is basically all importers and exporters in Mexico. We're in the region for Noreste, which is Nuevo León, Coahuila, in that area. So yeah, be at the table, man. Be a part of the conversation. Be informed.
Now, for cross-border shippers, regardless of how this whole tariff situation evolves, there's a whole lot of risks involved with the whole process. How can technology, real-time tracking, data analytics, things like that, help businesses effectively manage some of those risks?
Well, it's like anything, it's about it's having a secure shipment, right? I think there was a thing called blockchain a while back. They talked about blockchain and how that was supposed to be the wave of the future. I don't think that's so much anymore in the last 2 or 3 years. I haven't heard much about that. But this goes back to what I was talking about earlier, the certification process. If you're bonded and insured, you're certified, you've gone through the Customs and Trade Partnership Against Terrorism, certification process, and you continue to move along through there. If you have customs brokers in Reynosa that also have a customs brokerage in the U.S. side, working together, understanding the law, the trade law, the import-export rules, things of that nature is going to help. But the technology obviously will play a key role in the future. I think we're still a ways away, honestly, even though there's so much technology out there. Unfortunately, due to security measures, due to safety, the safety aspect, your federal governments, aduana in Mexico, port of entry, they're using certain technologies, but it's not like that's going to allow it to just streamline the process. There's still checks and balances. There are still going to be personnel there that need to inspect. I think, you can only do so much. Because there's always scammers out there. There's always fraud. There's always people out there trying to get ahead of you, and we see it every day in our personal lives. Same thing with the federal government. They're constantly being attacked, and the bad guys are always looking for ways to get away with it, as they say, right? So you're always going to need the personnel. That's why, to me, I think a process improvement to streamline a particular process like unified cargo processing, that could be something going forward. It's technology based, but it's more like both countries working together for one joint inspection, right? And we're really pushing the envelope on that this year now, especially with the coming of our bridge expansion. We're really going to be pushing on that. But yeah, I don't think technology is the answer to everything.
All right. Well, on the other side of that, then, what are some of the enduring benefits and advantages to having a cross-border supply chain that makes them really attractive to
Yeah.
businesses?
Well, again, I mean, if you're not part of the supply chain, if you're kind of doing it on your own, if you need to have a team, you have to have the right players. And I said it earlier, choose the right customs broker as an example. If you want to get your shipments across faster, if you choose the right broker, if you're in the produce business, choose a customs broker that's in the produce business. Same applies for manufacturing, same applies for everything else, because what happens sometimes, I think, especially in these days and times where companies are trying to cut back, cut corners, run leaner, all those things are good. You're saving, but at the end of the day, what is the primary goal is to get that shipment across just in time to the end consumer, right?
On the other side of that, though, what are some common misconceptions or surprises that they need to be prepared for?
Yeah, I think that the biggest common the biggest misconception that I've heard throughout the years is, it's easy business. It's easy, you get your customs broker license, you get a bunch of customers, you start making a whole lot of money, and become rich and famous. Well, that's not the case. A lot of these guys, we've seen the turmoil, we've seen the heartache, we've seen the images, we've heard the stories of companies going under because it's not that easy. There's so many, you have to be, aside from being at the table, being a part of the conversation, being well informed, know the rules, know the trade law. Don't just start just because you want to start, just because somebody told you you're going to get rich off of this. Nobody's getting rich off of this. Companies that have been in existence for, let's say, 20, 30 years or more, that have been passed on from generation to generation, even those companies are struggling because the rules have changed. And if you're not willing to change with the times and the regulations and the political arena, within the political arena, more importantly now, then you're going to stay behind. I wrote a couple of notes here is, again, talk to your importers, your customs brokers, know trade law. If I think some customers might already have, even attorneys, that they work with. Your accountants, your bankers. Get in with the story, get in the full picture, because you know, again, it's great. We are it's great to have the Pharr International Bridge. Don't get me wrong; it's fantastic. Not every city is as fortunate as the city of Pharr to have an international bridge that brings in so much value and so much trade revenue, right? So that the city can keep running. But we see it with our customers. We are very open to conversations. We're always meeting with the different associations. We go to their trade shows. We hear the stories, like I said. So just be in the know. Get to understand it better. Don't just jump into it. It's you have to be educated on the subject and almost become an expert. And becoming an expert takes time.
Of course, yeah. Now, to that end, considering factors like Pharr's importance for produce and natural gas imports, and then the ongoing military deployments at the border, how else can U.S. shippers optimize their cross-border transportation strategies looking ahead to 2025 and beyond?
Staying ahead of the curve. I mean, I can't stress it enough. It's, again, I think it goes back to the same thing. Talk to your leadership, talk to your folks, talk to your supply chain, talk to your importer. Are they ready? Are they not? Do they meet all the standards and specifications and requirements that CBP needs? We all talk about streamlining. We all talk about efficiency. Unfortunately, not everybody carries that weight. Not everybody wants to do it. We're right now, as the city of Pharr, building so much infrastructure to become safer, to become more efficient, right? I mentioned the bridge expansion as an example. We have other projects in the works, but the entire supply chain needs to invest in that. They need to invest in efficiency. They need to invest the time and efforts in understanding what goes in. And I said, I can't stress it enough. If your customs broker doesn't know what they're doing, then your shipment's probably not going to get across, or something's going to happen, right? So yeah, I mean, I think everybody needs to speak the same language, but also act on that and be willing to take those steps forward. You can't depend on just the bridge. A lot of the times we get the calls like, "Hey, what's going on? How come you guys this and the bridge is closed?" And well, we're not closing the bridge. Our bridge is open. We're in operations. We have our hours of operation, but it's what happens in Mexico. It's what happens within the supply chain that makes it chaotic, that makes it sound like we did something wrong. We're able to entertain some of those questions, and we're doing that this week. We've been doing that for the last few weeks, but we're not ultimately the ones responsible for this. If you're in business, you got to take care of your business, right?
Excellent. Okay, now speaking about those steps, and if anyone has questions, where can I send the audience to get more information about Pharr and about what they can do to optimize their cross-border shipments?
Absolutely. So the city of Pharr just launched a brand new redesigned website, cityofpharr.com. In there, you'll find the link to a message, a statement from all the directors across the entire city for all the departments. You'll find the international bridge on there as well. It kind of gives you a welcome. It talks about our goals for the future, for the next 5 years, and why we do what we do. But also you can go to pharrbridge.com. You can call us directly. There's several phone numbers. 402-4660-956 is the area code. Find us on social media. We have LinkedIn, we have Facebook, we have YouTube. There's a lot of information up there. Our website our personal website is very detailed, is very user friendly. We've been upgrading our system, our website for the past 4 or 5 years. You can access cameras on there to see traffic. And you'll see all our associations that we're members of. One of the things we're working now is to be able to click on each one of those associations so you can learn more about them, right? But again, that's a value added that we bring to the table. I like to think as a city of Pharr, as just it's about excellence every day. But at the bridge, we have a very unorthodox way of running things over here, because we have a good team that has different areas of expertise, and they've come from different backgrounds that have allowed us to get to the point we're in, and we're growing. We have a strategic plan in place for the next 5 years. We have major plans aside from the infrastructure that we're building. We have other plans to increase the services and add more to what we're already doing.
Excellent. I know you've been all over social media spreading the word about Pharr. So anybody who's interested, go to those links. They'll be in the show notes. Luis Bazan, thank you so much for sharing more info about Pharr with us. Good luck to you guys. Good luck to us all, really.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, good luck to all of us. May God bless us all. Thank you all very much.
Inbound Logistics Magazine is the information leader in supply chain and logistics management. Start your free print and digital subscription today by visiting bit.ly/getil. That's bit.ly/get_IL and stay ahead of the 3PL game.
The Inbound Logistics Podcast is a production of Inbound Logistics Magazine. For the most in-depth information around logistics, transportation, and supply chain practices, get your free print and digital subscription at inboundlogistics.com/subscribe. Connect with us via LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube for the most current developments in the industry. If you'd like to leave us some feedback or have a topic you'd like to see covered in a future episode, call our Dialog line at 888-878-3247 or leave us an email at podcast@inboundlogistics.com. I'm your host, Jeff Vita. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time here on the Inbound Logistics Podcast.